Hello fellow YouTubers, fellow subscribers and auditors alike. I just thought I'd do a quick update video on the two cases that are pending at 157 Larkhall Lane. The first I'm going to speak about happened a month and a day ago. So on the 2nd of January, when I first did my first official audit for 2019, I was stopped by two plainclothes policemen, as you'll see from my last video, and I just thought I'd give you an update on that one. So what I did was I sent my statement over to Inspector Cameron Childcraft, who you heard me mention or shouting across the street to those two men, because they're not policemen, they're men. And he subsequently passed it on to a Detective Inspector Emma White, and we've had some correspondence in regards to the case or to the incident, and this is what happened. She says, first of all, on the 23rd of January, I've been asked to make contact with you in respect to the points that have been raised in your email below, which is basically sending home a statement in regards to these two gentlemen turning up and not identifying themselves, even though they claim to be police officers. She says, I can only apologise if the interaction with members of the Metropolitan Police Service did not meet with your expectations. It's not about my expectations when it comes to Metropolitan Police staff conducting themselves properly. It's up to the expectations of the police service itself, I should think. Anyway, as you are aware, this is a police building, and our staff are encouraged to challenge those within the base not displaying their identification and those outside who are deemed to be acting suspiciously. Now, we all know that having a camera is not acting suspiciously, and it's not a crime to be recording, ever. However, this should always be done politely and professionally. But as you saw from the last video, it was not done politely, and it was definitely not done professionally. So, I've identified one member of staff, which is the older of the two gentlemen you saw in the video, who spoke to you, and I will identify the other and discuss with them their interaction with you on this day. It is also pleasing to hear that you have also encountered two other policemen that day who were the most professional officers that I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. So basically what she's doing is using my own words against me to try and justify something. I don't know what she's trying to justify. If you wish to discuss the matter further, please get in contact. She's left with all the details. So, still got a bit of a flu, so please forgive the coughing and the sneezing and the sniffing. She then sent an email back after I sent her the PDF from the Chief Constable for England, Wales and Northern Ireland when it comes to the guidance for public photography. And it says here on the 25th, thank you for your reply and attached. I will make sure all that work within this building are aware of its contents. So I think the idea that they didn't know it existed in the first place is quite worrying. And secondly, that I think it's a good thing, really. It is pretty much a good thing that they're now making sure that all police officers know about the guidance, which is basically what we want them to know. We want them to know that this exists and we're allowed to take pictures in public. It's not a crime. Anyway, so I left it with her. So once again, please accept my apologies on behalf of the Metropolitan Police Service. Now, I refused her apology. Said I do not accept her apology on behalf of the MPS or any of your staff members. They should know better and conduct themselves a lot better. As in my previous email, I have spoken to the members of staff involved and reminded them of the document that you sent me. I will not be investigating this matter further, and there is no transcript available for your records, but I hope our email conversation will provide you with enough details for your records. No, because what I asked her for was the details of those two gentlemen that approached me in the first place. And now she's saying 5 days after investigation that she's no longer investigating the incident. So, that was on the 28th of January. Now, on the 31st of January, I asked her again for these details, and she turns around and says, "Thank you for your email. I will endeavour to get back to you as soon as possible." Because what I asked her to do is speak to, well, she said to me, "I'm going to speak to my a superior officer to see if I'm allowed to give you the details. If I'm allowed to give you the details. If I'm asking for them, you have to give them to me." Anyway, so she went away for a night to ask the Professional Standards Department, and this is what she says. "As discussed last night, I've consulted with my colleagues in our Professional Standards Department, and under the circumstances, because I asked her for their details for me to update my records and to make a new video to identify these two gentlemen," she says this: "As discussed last night, I've consulted with my colleagues in our Professional Standards Department, and under the circumstances, they have advised me that I do not have to provide the details of the staff members. I have submitted your original points as a public complaint to our Professional Standards Department and await their response." So
initially I kind of thought
basically she went to the Professional Standards. She went to the Professional Standards Department, and they said, "No, you don't have to give them. You don't have to give me the details." But then she also says that she has put the original points as a public complaint to the Public Standards Department and await their response. So if she's already seen them and they've said no, then why is she putting the report about the original complaint in the first place? Now what was quite worrying is the fact that if they cannot be identified, then firstly, what are they doing in public? And secondly, what are they doing approaching members of the public, asking them what they're doing? Which is perfect. I'm perfectly legal to stand here all day with a camera. Now, if they're not to be identified because of the nature of their work and what they actually do for their business, then I don't think they should be approaching members of the public, asking them what they're doing, if it's perfectly legal. That's the confusing part in my mind, is the fact that they're approaching members of the public and then they can't be identified as policemen, which is quite disturbing. Anyway, that's the rant over for that bit. That's that one. That was only a month and a day ago. The second part of this video is to discuss the incident that happened 7 months ago. Yes, the second part of this video is to talk about the incident that happened 7 months ago at the same place, at 157 Larkhall Lane, just opposite the gates. So I was stopped, I was assaulted, detained, and subsequently my camera was seized from my person while it was recording, and it was stopped and the images were viewed. Now, in order for them to stop me in the first place, they have to have a reasonable grounds to stop me. I have to have been committing a crime to begin with. And secondly, second and thirdly, seizing my camera and viewing the footage means that they would need a court order to do so. And we all know for a fact that they didn't have a court order to do that. So, I sent that complaint in to begin with to Inspector Cameron Chalcraft, who you heard me screaming about before. But let me tell you what the summary is so far. This has gone to the Complaints and Professional Standards Board, and it would seem the 4 members that stopped me, even though the van driver who did the PNC check is also complicit in all of this. It would seem he has nothing to do with the actual stop and search. I'm going to name the officers so everyone knows who they are. The first one is David Owen, Constable 221542. Now, he tried to be professional and go with the criteria of mentioning who he is and what police station he's from and all that kind of jazz. But that was suddenly stopped by Samuel Davies, Constable 237101, who seized the camera from my hand while it was recording and then decided to turn it off and view the footage without a court order. Laura Clark, Constable 234958. She was the one who seized my folder and continued to ask me for my identification. Now, I know she was only asking, but at this point I was just giving them enough rope to hang themselves with. And Matthew Dolan, Constable 229241, who was on my left hand side holding me against my will while the search was commencing. Now, the Complaints and Professional Standards Board have had a look at this, and here is the following. All four constables went from being constables to officers when they decided not to use common law, which is what they signed an oath to and swore to when conducting business with public, to protect and serve the public. So, the outcome of this, and I'm still waiting on the outcome of this, is that all four of them are in breach of Code A of PACE, Code B of PACE, incivility, impoliteness, and intolerance. These are constables on the street, conducting business and approaching members of the public. No, I'll cut it out, doesn't make any difference. So, they're in breach of Code A of PACE, and which deals with the exercise by police officers of statutory powers to search a person or a vehicle without first making an arrest. It also deals with the need for a police officer to make a record of such a stop or encounter. Now, if they're in breach of Code A of PACE, that means they didn't do any of that. They didn't arrest me and they didn't make a record of the stop. They're also in breach of Code B of PACE, which is as follows. Police powers to search premises or to seize and retain property found on premises and persons. Now, as discussed, my video was all still recording because I wanted to get all their names and numbers, and the camera was seized from my hand, the camera was stopped, and the images were viewed, or the video was viewed, without a court order. It also goes on to say that all four officers are also in breach of the incivility that they took. The actions that they took were uncivil, the impoliteness of their approach, and also the intolerance of their actions. Hiya, how you doing? So, in retrospect to that, these two cases are still ongoing, and let's hope that something comes of it. Because I've spoken to Inspector Cameron Chalcraft, and he wants no part of the idea that a financial gain should be made from it. But he is quite prepared to put my case forward, and he has done, to the Professional Standards organisation, to bring these police constables to book. Now we shall see whether that actually happens.